Lunch and Learn webinar in our 5-part series for the healthcare industry. Today's topic is called, it's healthcare industry business development insights from a legal and marketing perspective. And our hope is that you'll walk away today with a few pieces of practical guidance that you can incorporate into your organizations. And with that being said, let's see if I can, there we go. So I'm Kate Hickner. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Jen Malcolm, from Genesis and Associates. I'll just say a few words about my background for those that don't know me. I'm a healthcare attorney and a partner at Brennan Manna Diamond. I have a national practice that focuses on mergers, acquisitions, capital raises, and other corporate transactions in the healthcare space. And I also spend quite a bit of time on physician financial relationships and employment agreements. And then I also provide regulatory and compliance guidance to businesses within this space. And now I'll let Jen introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Malcolm. I own Genesis and Associates. It's 11 years in the making in the marketing space. We really showcase the fractional CMO space, the storytelling space, and book publishing are kind of our 3 iconic pillars. I love supporting women. We've always been a virtual company, so 11 years in the making, always have been virtual, and it's all about family first, having that work-life balance, being able to work when you can, how you can, be a provider, care provider for your kids. And we have won numerous awards over the last several years. So I'm super excited about that and have an outstanding team, mostly in the Northeast Ohio area, but also nationally as well. We do work locally, nationally, and internationally, and just excited to be partnering with Kate today.
Okay, thanks, Jen. And I'm going to go ahead and, okay. So first, before we get started and go too far, I just want to take a step back and talk about why this topic is so important. So we all know that healthcare is a heavily regulated industry, and business development and marketing practices that are permissible in any other industry are sometimes not permissible in the healthcare industry. And oftentimes practices that are permissible in other industries can actually even result in civil or criminal liability if implemented in healthcare. So it's really important to be cognizant of the guardrails here. But as a lawyer, my job is to not only provide information about what you can't do, but to also offer solutions so you can achieve your business objectives in other ways. And so along those lines, after I cover some do's and don'ts, Jen is going to share some insight into effective business development tools from a marketing perspective. So before I talk about the laws, I want to just give a little bit of context. The healthcare industry, as we know, is a lot of things. It focuses on health for the individual. We talk a lot about population health more broadly, but it's also big business. And this year it's anticipated to account for 19.9% of the GDP at $5 trillion. So there's a lot of money out here in the industry, and a lot of business being done. And then when we look at various sectors within the healthcare industry, profit margins for pharmaceutical companies, healthcare information technology companies, healthcare product companies, those are some of the largest. And that's really reflected in my practice as well. In my own practice, much of the activity is going on involving revenue cycle and billing management clients, software companies, telehealth, and other businesses that support the industry. I would say among providers of services or supplies, I'm seeing a tremendous amount of activity involving labs because of what they've experienced during the pandemic with COVID testing. So that's kind of my perspective in that regard. So there are many laws that impact financial relationships, including those with sales reps and marketers. And I placed a few of the key considerations on this slide. There are many more, such as the federal Stark law that may or may not be implicated depending on the circumstances. And before we go through each one, I just want to take a step back and talk about why these laws are in place. So if we're looking at the big picture, there are a few reasons. The government is concerned about business practices that result in overutilization of healthcare services. So overutilization is providing more services than are necessary. So that results in unnecessary costs to governmental healthcare programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and other payers. And government also wants to make sure that physicians and other providers are making decisions that are in the best interest of the patients. They want providers to be motivated by what's good for the patients and not just what's financially beneficial to the practice. So I just want to touch upon a few of the key laws when we talk about business development and marketing in healthcare, so we're all on the same page. And first up here on the slide is the federal anti-kickback law. It's a criminal law, and there are also similar state laws. In its simplest form, we know that no one can pay for patients or referrals, but it's much broader than that. The law prohibits essentially giving anything of value to someone in exchange for generating business payable by Medicare and Medicaid federal healthcare programs. And from the government's perspective, if one purpose of the relationship is to reward someone for the generation of business, that's enough to taint the relationship and make it impermissible. We often focus on fair market value in this context. The government views payments in excess of fair market value as payment for business impermissibly. Next in the slide, I just wanted to list ECRA. It's the Eliminating Kickbacks and Recovery Act. It's similar to the kickback statute, but broader and less developed. And it applies to recovery homes, clinical treatment facilities, and labs. We have a large body of regulatory safe harbors and case law and guidance to help us understand what's permissible or not under the anti-kickback law. ECRA is less developed. And if you're a lab or someone else subject to this law, it's really important to remember that it's not the same as the anti-kickback statute. Fee splitting, similar concepts to AKS and ECRA. These are state level requirements, usually the licensure provisions that apply to physicians. Some states are more stringent than others. New York is an example of a very stringent fee splitting state that essentially prohibits percentage-based relationships and management agreements. So depending on the state, these laws are important to consider. The civil monetary penalties law, one aspect of this that I just like to highlight is that it's generally impermissible to provide inducements that influence patient selection of a particular physician or provider or supplier. And there's safe harbors that we'll discuss in just a minute. And then of course, HIPAA, which sets a minimum floor for patient privacy at the federal level. It governs how information can be used or disclosed. Okay. And so next I'm going to cover a few questions that I hear from clients almost daily. These laws are something that I literally deal with every day. And I just want to say also that any analysis of a proposed marketing or business development relationship in healthcare really depends on the specific facts. It's, there are a lot of nuances here. So I'm going to respond to the questions kind of generally in a way that I think will probably be helpful to you. But if you have a particular relationship that you're contemplating, you definitely want to consult with your lawyer to make sure that all issues have been identified and that it's fully compliant based upon the applicable law. So the first question that I hear a lot, how can I incentivize my business development team in a manner that complies with law? So in other words, how do I run a business development team if I don't have the ability to align their financial incentives with the growth of our business? And so there are ways that the business development team can be incentivized while still complying with the kickback statute and ECRA when it's applicable. When reviewing any financial relationship, the government has kind of like, there's a term called the big three. So it's fair market value, commercial reasonableness, and then whether the compensation varies based upon the volume and value. And these are the, making sure that the relationship is fair market value and commercially reasonable is important to making sure the relationship complies with the federal regulations when they govern. And the government does not generally like percentage-based arrangements. So what can you do with a sales rep? You can pay a sales rep or a marketing services firm fair market value for bona fide services actually provided. So in general, sales reps should be W-2 employees to take advantage of the safe harbor under the anti-kickback statute. They should be paid on a flat or salary basis, and it should be set in advance and not changed more than once a year. Even for those W-2 employees, businesses need to be careful how they pay bonuses. So any bonus plan generally should focus on what the business development person is doing and not the results, is kind of the way that I think about it. So it should not take into account the number of referrals that they generate or the amount billed as a result of their activities. Benchmarks and KPIs should instead focus on the number of meetings with potential targets, activity on the CRM, medical and scientific knowledge. Again, focusing on the process and what they're actually doing, as opposed to the business that they're generating. And then under some circumstances, in my opinion, I also feel comfortable if bonuses are based upon success of the overall profitability of the business, and other circumstances that are not directly related to the work that sales rep is doing. So it's important that sales reps, let me just say it this way, sales reps can share in the success of the business, but it's important that they do it the right way. Another question up here on the slide, can I provide new patients with a complimentary service? There are definitely constraints here that need to be considered. As I mentioned earlier, the CMP law prohibits a provider from providing something of value to a patient that the person knows would influence the patient's selection of that physician. Kind of similar to the concept of a kickback, but in the patient context. And there are safe harbors for certain things that can be provided to patients. Those relate to value-based programs, patient engagement and support, cybersecurity, technology, and others. The safe harbor that we often use is for items and services of a nominal value. So that means items that are less than $15 and no more than $75 to any patient in the aggregate in any year. So this safe harbor is meant to protect, for example, the ability of a doctor to send a patient pens and notepads, mugs with the practice's logo. Dentists can give patients free toothbrushes, floss, toothpaste, etc. But if a provider is giving anything of value to a patient, we need to kind of think through this law and make sure that it does comply with the safe harbor. Now, cash-based businesses do have more flexibility, such as a plastic surgery practice or another aesthetic practice. Then we only need to worry about the state kickback and licensure requirements instead of the federal constraints. Those kind of nuances are something that a healthcare attorney can definitely help someone walk through. Another question that I often hear: how can I monetize our patient list? So this type of question raises a lot of different issues. There's ethical issues, state licensure, and criminal law issues, and of course HIPAA. So since HIPAA is really a minimum floor, I'll just say a few words about that. I'm going to turn this over to Jen, and she's going to lighten up the conversation and talk about marketing from a business perspective.
Thanks, Kate. And so I get the fun part because marketing is super passionate in my world, and it affects all of us in the business community. It's a space that's really loud, and unless you differentiate and figure out ways to differentiate, then it just gets put into the pool of just noise. And so part of this and how we differentiate is through the capturing of stories. And I mentioned that as a sweet spot of Genesis. And with a story, just think when you were a kid and your grandma opened a book, or your mom or parent opened a book, and you lean into the storytelling. And with marketing, it's the same thing. It's a way to capture your business, your organization, who you are, and to showcase that in a different way that make people lean in. We love all things marketing, and people do business with other people. And so to humanize it, to put your fingerprints all over it, to differentiate your voice, your stylization, is the element of how we approach our marketing in this industry. You can go to the next one. So I gave some examples of some of the top things that are trending and really can be differentiators within the organization. So video, and repurposing your video, reusing your video. So we do video shoots, and we did one recently where it's an all-day video shoot to capture B-roll and interviews and the culture of an organization. But when I say repurpose and reuse, we not only develop that into an overview of the company, who you are, the story element, the culture, the people, the warmth, the environment, but then also to disseminate that into potential YouTube or small pieces to be used on social media or within a newsletter. So to humanize that, video is one of the most consumed pieces of content out there. Recommend it to be short and sweet. Our attention span, as we all know, is very, very small. And it captures someone maybe while they're sitting in a grocery line and your email comes up or something comes up on a social media feed that can be easily disseminated. A strong call to action, a strong element of that story capturing piece is how it is really how to differentiate. Next one is on your brand story. So when I say brand story, most of us write and tell our story through an egocentric manner. And so we do it with the eyes and what we have to offer. But how we want to twist that piece is to really get into the end user. What are they feeling? What's their pain points? And so to differentiate in that writing, to capture and to engage with your audience in what's important to them. So when I write, I my team typically comes back and it's really red lettered because I think it's really important that I share X, Y, or Z in maybe a blog or a video piece that I'm writing. And so for me, I hit what is important to me, but that might not be what's important or what's of interest to the end user. And so that piece is to really switch the narrative and get into the pain point of the person who is going to be reading the content, watching the video on your website, etc. The next one is about your core values and really just showcase your personality. When we pick our clients, and Kate knows this, she's one of our favorite clients, and Jennifer Shankleton, I know, is on here as well. We do it with people who align with our core values. So I give an example of Genesis core values, which we use Pick Genesis. So we try to find something that is fun and quirky and easy to remember. But Pick Genesis is for our client facing. We put them on our proposals, we put it into our pitch deck. But for that, we want to be known as your passionate, innovative, collaborative, and knowledgeable team. So you start to get a feel of who we are as a company, as a culture. But then internally, we have the words fun, which is the focused, united, and noble. Focused meaning that we display ambition and best work, and that we on time, on budget, client success. United is that teamwork aspect. So we come together, we collaborate, we understand what we're doing, but we all pitch in to help each other get across that finish line. And there's no I, it's always a we within our organization. And then noble is really just doing what we're say we're going to do. And the quirky part was noble was my maiden name. And so when we came up with this one, it was a very sweet, rich piece that really resonated with me. But it's just saying you're going to do what you're going to do, what you say you're going to do. And we're not going to overpromise and underdeliver. We're going to burn the midnight oil. And but through this Pick Genesis and fun, you start to get a glimpse of who we are and our personality. And so being very clear on who you are as an individual, who you want to be known as, your legacy, your voice, and then to have that sprinkle down into your organization and into your content, and to make sure that you're clearly communicating that to your audience is really essential. The next one is content. And we all know, again, that there's multiple ways of providing this content, but to do it through the voice, like I mentioned before, through the ends of the end user, what's their pain point? But this could be through blogs, case studies, white papers, social media, your web copy, but all of that should really have that heart of who you are what that pain point is, your credibility. This is a place to showcase the things that you do, your accolades, your differentiators. And so to really disseminate, and again, we say build it once, use it often. If you can get down onto documentation, some of the key elements, and then to repurpose, tease them out into social media posts, put them into blogs, translate that into a case study or maybe a award nomination or submission that you're putting together, but to really have clear understanding of your content and your content pillars and your editorial calendar in order to connect with your end user. Obviously, this then goes into your keywords, which is the next slide. Knowing what people are Googling, what are they searching for? What are those key combinations? Is it healthcare by me? Is it attorney by me? Is it female attorney by me? Is it credible female attorney by me? Whatever those keywords are, you want to make sure that those keywords are a part of your website and that they're obviously tagged and appropriately documented on the back end of the website. But it could be an easy way to start in the search engine to get your company, your organization, or even your name to the top of a list, that when people Google marketing female entrepreneur in Cleveland, I want to be one of those top people that pop up into that circle based on the awards I've won, based on the team, based on the culture, based on the differentiation of things that Genesis provides. So really come to storyboard that out. Maybe you just grab a white paper and a whiteboard and start just journaling out and writing out phrases and keyword combinations that you want to be known for, and then find a non-awkward way to put that into your content as well. The next one is user experience. So what do you want people to know you for? How is their first time coming? Is your website clunky? Is it mobile friendly? I know that we have clients or prospective clients, and when we go to their website is embarrassing because it looks like it was built, 20 some years ago, and it's not mobile friendly, and it has old type, really content heavy pages, and they load slow. Whatever that is, you only get a first chance. We all know that, to make a first impression, and that taste of that experience when they come in. Is it easy to navigate? Is it intuitive? Are people going through the process, and from the time they enter in to the time they exit, that they come away with a very positive experience? So Caitlin on my team, and I think she's on this webinar as well, is a master at really going through and mapping out that user experience. And she'll practice, and she'll go into a content form or something and say, there's too many clicks, there's too many steps to get through this process, and you're going to lose people along the way. The other piece is often we have different tabs or hyperlinks within our website that load over the original intent of that website. So maybe instead of opening up into a new tab, it goes down, and you put people down a rabbit hole, and then they forget where they even started. They click out of it, and you've lost that lead, or you lost that piece of capturing the audience when you had them right there at your door. The next one is, where is your target audience? So for many of us, depending on whether we're B2B, B2C, we have our audience members have clear patterns of buying patterns and different elements of decision making and social media. So really understanding who your target audience are. They male, female? Are they in industrial spaces? Are they in business spaces? Are they B2C, B2B, like I said? But really understanding who they are, and then where do they shop? Where do they look to get influence? Where do they look to get ideas? So you can see on this slide here, there's all sorts of different social media icons listed, but some people want to get a podcast. Some other people are going to go to Pinterest to get ideas and creativity. Other people are going to go to Google. So really to understand where your audience is, and then to make sure that your content and your strategy aligns with that engagement. What is their pain point? What do they need to know? And how can you be that solution for your end user? The next one here is your patient reviews. How many of us, when we travel, and my husband and I travel quite often, we will be going through Lexington or Columbus or Cincinnati, and we literally will go, cigar bar by me, or a bourbon bar by me or hotel or spa, whatever that is. But we always look at the reviews, just restaurants when we're out of town, hotels, etc. Reviews are that influencer that a lot of us don't take much time to gather them, but we often use them for our buying and purchasing decisions. And so getting those reviews on your website, throughout Google, on the right platforms, whether it's, any of the social media ones, or when you go and just, finding out where to go and where to look and where to buy, having those influencers out there. And it could be as simple as sending a survey or sending some of your top clients or influencers, hey, can you take 5 minutes to do a review so we can put it up on Yelp, or we can put it up on other platforms to, really get that buyer influence to help us in the marketing platform as well. So the last slide is just an overview of these elements that I shared, which is the top tools for sharing your story. Again, video, 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 knowing your brand story through the eyes of your audience and not yours, showcasing your personality. We have a client, and this one is so fun. We have a client that they are some of the most fun, dynamic, outgoing individuals that we love absolutely working with. And when we went to their website, it was so boring and bland, and it didn't showcase anything about their personality. It didn't humanize it. It was just very transactional. And so we really redid that whole brand story and that showcasing their personalities and their core values, so that people can see that they are the engaging and fun and really differentiated in the space that they're in. And we wanted to showcase that and their personality. Obviously, again, personalize and connect with your audience through the content that matters to them. Number 5, your SEO and your keywords. 6, evaluating your web online experience, knowing where your audience is on social media and customizing your content in order to meet them where they're at. And then those reviews. So hopefully you guys can pick up some of these ideas, even if it's one simple thing. You may be looking at this saying, I don't know where to start. There's a lot here. But, starting at one of these and just starting to tease it out and starting to brainstorm about it, we have a big whiteboard here in our office, and just starting putting ideas down and themes and really, what do you want to be known for? What are those differentiators? And then how do you communicate that out well to your audience? So hopefully you picked up a few tips here, and always, Kate, I know she's got some contact information, but always happy to help offline as well.
Okay, thanks so much, Jen. So just to conclude, I think that from a legal perspective, even though it's absolutely imperative for anyone in the healthcare industry to really understand the guardrails in this space and to issue spot and have a relationship reviewed if there's any question that it may need to be restructured, there is a lot of flexibility, and it's fun to talk about business development and marketing, and certainly in my practice and at my firm, we heavily emphasize entrepreneurship, and so thanks, Jen, for talking about this today.
You're very welcome.
So I don't know if anyone on the call has any questions. If you don't, that's totally fine. This was meant to be just a quick lunch and learn, a few reminders and some practical tips. If you do, though, feel free to ask away. Okay. Well, Jen, it looks like we may be off the hook and no one has any questions for us today.
That's great.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Jen. I hope you have a great day.